We have now learned that there's been misalignment where you find a state-owned enterprise is accounting to a different ministry in government when it is supposed to be accounting to a line ministry like transport. You find that it's accounting elsewhere. Of course, when there's been this alignment, it means that the department called public enterprise in the long term, the implication is that it will disappear and that state-owned enterprises will align and so on. Load shedding and Minister of Electricity, it's an intervention. We're dealing with an emergency. So that's why Sputla briefs you weekly. We're dealing with an emergency to do away with load shedding and intervene decisively. But our resolution is that ESCOM must go to energy. There's got to be that alignment. Transnet must go to the Department of Transport. There's got to be that sort of alignment. We don't have any in our agenda that there must be privatization of state assets, and we will not agree to that. We don't have that mandate. Revamp, make them viable, effective to deliver on their mandate. We need to be told about the possible operational models that are there to make them effective. Obviously, with the state of Transnet in the country and the pace of delivery in terms of the conference resolution and our mandate that, among others, we've got to move from from road to rail. You know, we're very behind in terms of that, and that has affected the program of ensuring that a number of companies in terms of production, line, and delivery and so on have been affected in terms of speedy delivery in that context. So it is going to be important that these issues must then be addressed. Middle sum of Praveen Gordon. Look, when I'm a minister, I'm meddling in the affairs of the public enterprise. What governs these boards is the law. And what is that law? Law of cooperative governance that govern the boards, the role of the board in relation to the minister as the shareholder, and then the board in relation to the management of the SOE. The State Capture Commission is very clear with regard to that, to an extent that Judge Zondo made far-reaching proposals in terms of the functioning of the SOEs. So professionals that are appointed to these boards must know their rights when they are still there. Now, when you complain when you have left, they think that you behave like a jilted lover. Whilst it was nice, you didn't see the wrong things. When you are jilted, all of a sudden you tell us that Tupac and all of that is a problem and so on. I'm just making a very far-fetched example, which is trending right now on Twitter about some Americans' affairs and so on. Now, I am saying that Professor Malekapuru is a respected South African. If he said those things whilst he was still there, it will empower us to know that our minister is mismanaging things. But it does not mean that those things can be ignored. You know, it does not mean that they can be ignored. I mean, Prof is a good person. I mean, he wouldn't just say things. But it's always advisable that when you are appointed in a position of responsibility, you say it then. And that there are rules in which you can even challenge the person who appointed you. You are not appointed as a stooge. You are appointed because of certain qualities. There are ministers who like to take chances about the powers that you've got. You think that you can manipulate, but others is with good intentions to accelerate and deepen transformation. Because people get into boards and then they simply collect checks, they forget the mandate that they are facing. And there's nothing in law that says a minister cannot interface with the board about addressing issues. And also, in terms of, as a shareholder, what is your expectation? In terms of the boards, the shareholder has got the shareholder agreement with the board, and that states, in line with the mandate of the ruling party and the manifesto, these are the things that we want to achieve. ESCOM has achieved zilch of the things we promised we'll do to the people of South Africa. Has not. It has actually plunged us into a crisis of self-defense every day. Load shedding, mismanagement, running down the entity. We have even brought somebody there who's not a member of the ANC. You are accused of deployment. We brought the Reiter. I don't think a member of the ANC can attack the ANC the way the Reiter did about our ideological disposition, that we still believe in the Soviet Union and then their ghost then Luthuli House, about, and we call ourselves comrades and all of that. This is the person we gave an SOE. Under him, the project of load shedding was accelerated more than ever. That's why it has actually made Brian and Koko Matela to look good and smell good. And South Africans say, but these things did not happen under them. And then South Africans began to question, what is it that they did that we were unable to do? This is the things we got from ESCOM, and who get blamed for that is the ANC. So sometimes there is a dynamic interface between the boards and the ministers. And in shaping up the SOEs, we need to deal with these particular matters, because I don't know what Minister Pravin will say and respond. How will he respond to Professor? Because it's not one-sided. If he's accused, we just came from state capture, what did he do that made the professor to just explode? Just like that. The biggest complaint was also ostracizing of black capable people. Remember at ESCOM, it's not even before we appointed somebody there who left before Christmas. A very good black CEO there we appointed. I forgot his name. Before we appointed the Reiter. There's somebody who was appointed there. And then he left. Just disappeared. And then came the Reiter. And then that's it. To date, we have not as yet appointed. So these are issues that must be attended to. We'll get the report in terms of the meeting and how we are dealing with SOEs and so on, because we've got to provide the answers in terms of these issues. The state capture DC matters have been dealt with. They've been deferred to the, once the DC, I mean, we've got a lot of people who appeared before state capture and who have not gone to the Integrity Commission. So once that is done, we will then announce accordingly. Communication, TD, on ESCOM and load shedding. I think I've covered part of your questions in my response to Lizeka. But we are not impressed, because we thought that this board of Makwana has brought stability. There was at least some semblance of good governance going on there. And the focus was beginning to build around the challenge. And then, boom, we've got this particular challenge. But nonetheless, that matter is dealt with. And the ANC did get a brief on these particular matters, and some of these issues are being implemented. So there's nothing that we can say it's a crisis at the present moment. Also be a briefing on the way forward in terms of what the ANC needs to do. Coalition, the discussion, the people and the ANC. Look, what we have said as the ANC is that we prefer that the outcome of the elections must be respected in terms of what the people. We don't have a model in terms of local government, how to handle coalitions. We then developed a perspective which government embraced, and that perspective was tabled before different political parties in a dialogue convened by the Deputy President. That's what we must resolve as political parties. The issues that arise out of local government, hang municipalities, the experience we've got. Big municipalities like Johannesburg, when they don't deliver because of hamstrung by coalition governments and no agreement and not being transparent to the people about these agreements, somebody who's part of the coalition in Johannesburg will say to you that there is no agreement, we are just part of the loose arrangement. So what do you want to achieve? Because coalition is about agreement. You need to agree that I'm getting into a coalition, this is what I want for my constituency. But if you are in a loose arrangement, even tomorrow when I wake up, I can leave. That thing doesn't serve the people, there's no principles there, and so on. So we need to agree. And then once we agree, we need to make that public. That we are going to work with the EFF on the following agreement. Society knows about it. It's not just something that we met in a corner and then we agreed and then it's a loose arrangement. And when we don't have a good relationship with Julius, the coalition is over. For whatever reason. You know, so what is binding in the form of an agreement? It says, we agree to work with you for good. Everybody will tell you that we want our people. But what is it in an agreement that binds us together? It's not defined. When you get into a coalition, we have won Johannesburg, not outrightly. We're a party number one, but we are not leading government in Johannesburg. I was in Malutia Pufung, where political parties who are small humbled themselves and said, no, ANC lead. We are ready to be part of MMC's. Malutia Pufung ran down by map 16. People who said they can do better. But look at Malutia Pufung. So these political parties come together and say that we accept the leadership of the ANC because you are a majority, but you don't have outright majority. But we will be prepared to work with you. We respect the will of the people. That's the sort of model that we're talking about. Leave alone the fact that the ANC then goes and fills somebody who can read and write in Malutia Pufung. Now, that can't be the problem of the coalition partners. It's the problem of the ANC that the ANC must actually rectify. Because to run a municipality, you at least need somebody who's got an understanding of numbers and all of that, who can... It shouldn't be a joke. You know my sister at home, my sister is a member of the ANC, very active. I can imagine one day she become a councillor, and then being a councillor, the ANC nominated to become a speaker of parliament, and then or a mayor, my sister. And then how are you going to run the municipality? You can't, because you don't have the capabilities to basically run the municipality. So a responsible organization will look into those things and make a determination about who then must lead in those municipalities, rather than it becoming a joke. of social media, look at the ANC mayor and all of that. We know our capabilities, each one according to their capabilities, and give the best, at least close, who understand, who can lead. And then it become a joke, and then it ends there, becoming a joke. It cannot be like that. So that we are able to move the municipalities forward. That's what is important in this particular instance. So the ANC want, one, transparency in terms of agreements. The ANC want to institutionalize through legislation coalitions. Unfortunately, Tsidi, we can't take that decision on our own. We've got to agree in Parliament. So the parties that agree must vote in Parliament for this to happen. So we can't wait. If we agree with everybody that this is the way to go, we must go. But the people want moonshot for next year. There's nothing wrong, but they've left us here with the hung municipalities, and we have brought solutions on the table. We have also, in terms of hung municipalities, spoken about the concept of grand coalitions. And then you asked, what is grand coalition? Grand coalition means you have not won a municipality, but you can work with people on the basis of the numbers that you are a majority. And then others can come to the party and you run at the municipality. There will not be any destabilization there. And then you need to agree, like we say in our perspective, that we must allow civil service management of municipalities to be not to be affected by the outcome of the democratic elections. That when you have won an election in Johannesburg, it doesn't always lead to the change of management. Like, we will leave government if we lose. It doesn't mean that you will dismiss the DG and all the people who are employed as civil servants there. It doesn't work like that. In municipalities, it is very easy to change people because in municipalities like Johannesburg, when you move this coalition and the next one is coming, it means the new management will come with the new coalition partners. That's what happens. So all of those things affect service delivery. They affect service delivery. So in our perspective, we are saying all of those must be kept. We must stop that sort of, disintegration of our municipalities by way of introducing legislation that will make us not to have the crisis that we see all over the place. Thank you very much.
Just